Welcome back to Lyme Podcast. I want to start today thanking those of you that leave reviews on iTunes. We greatly appreciate that. I want to thank Primal Durability. Says, thank you, Aaron. This podcast has been so beneficial to my mind and body. I'm now taking a much more longevity-based approach to my fitness and I'm utilizing knowledge you provide. Very grateful for you, brother. Thank you so much for that, Primal Durability. If y'all are interested in leaving some reviews on this podcast, we have a giveaway for you from our show sponsor, Blue Blocks. Blue Blocks is the styliest pair of blue blocking sunglasses that I have come across, and super valuable to have a pair of those in your life. I use them all the time when I'm traveling, anytime I'm in airports, even around the house. If it's in the evening hours, once that sun goes down, your body starts veering towards a trajectory of falling off to sleep, which means you start releasing all sorts of melatonins and kind of down regulatory hormones through your bloodstream. And when you expose yourself to blue lights coming off of those, whatever you got, lights on your cell phone or computer or lamps, all that stuff, it sends a signal to your physiology to wake the freak up because it's morning time, and you can protect that using some blue blockers. So get yourself a pair of blue blocks. You can get 15% off using the line code BLUBLOX.com/align. Get yourself 15% off, or you can win yourself a pair of blue blocks by leaving us a review and then give Blue Blocks a follow on Instagram. So next Monday we'll be announcing the winner of they're giving you a free pair of daytime, nighttime, and a sleep mask. So pretty big deal. Leave your Instagram handle in the review and we will announce the lucky winner next week. So thanks so much for that. Today's guest was Dr. Christian Gonzalez. Christian is a bad mofo in the world of functional medicine. He specializes in oncology, and we get into all sorts of interesting wormholes in the realm of what the freak cancer is in the first place. Does it have some value, perhaps, in the world? What is the meaning of cancer? And just a lot of really interesting stuff. I really love this conversation. It was recorded here in front of my sauna in Santa Monica, and just good stuff. Really enjoyed it. Thanks so much for tuning into the website, alignpodcast.com, ALIGN podcast.com. On there, you can start the 5-day movement challenge, which people have been devouring, and I appreciate y'all's gratitude for that. It's 5 fundamental movement patterns that everybody ought to have in their daily existence, and it's simple, it's free, and it's at the very first thing you'll see at alignpodcast.com. All right, I think we're good. Thanks so much for tuning into this conversation, and thanks to folks that have started the Align Method online program. Grab the Align band. All that stuff can be found at alignpodcast.com or at Align Podcast on the Instagram. All right, here we go. Back to the show with Dr. Christian Gonzalez.
Align Podcast.
So most of us are treating health more like symptom management in Western culture.
Yep. I mean, you go in, you have a cough and it's not going away, then they'll get a physical exam, maybe they'll get a culture, but you'll probably just get antibiotics.
Yeah.
It could be viral, but you're on antibiotics. And it has an effect. There's a cause and effect to everything, but the antibiotics is something that is can cause a lot of damage.
Where does that come from? Is that like germ theory, or where's like the origination of the transition into that?
It was more so when we started bringing in pharmaceuticals into medicine, right? Because pharmaceuticals then had a place into that germ theory. Like, we can kill off this, right? If we have a weapon in the form of a medicine, then we can take care of the symptom, right? So it became more targeted and it saved many lives, but also at the expense of what our body is trying to do with symptoms, right? So I say symptoms are the manifestation of something deeper, right? You get persistent eczema, you can't really just go corticosteroids, you're good, you're cured. But you get that persistent eczema, there's something going on deeper, probably in your gastrointestinal system, or probably just with the food you keep eating. So there's the body talks, and we just kind of don't listen, and then we certainly suppress when we give it medications that it doesn't need.
Yeah, there was a quote that you had on your gram of what's the guy, Sir William Osler.
Yeah.
Do you know what that was? He said the sense of the I'm going to try to butcher, then you can say it right.
Yeah.
Do you know what it is?
Yeah, I know exactly what it
You can
is.
just say it.
I put it on so long ago, and it really resonated with me. But it went along the lines like, the organs weep the tears that the eyes refuse to weep, or something along those lines.
That's real good.
And that's considered one of the fathers of modern medicine.
Which is wild.
Which is wild, right? Because the old folks, they kind of knew what they were doing, right?
Yeah.
It's because they saw the bigger picture. They weren't just like, here, come in, take this, go home. But they saw deeper stuff, right? And they even integrated some food. They integrated some mental emotional. But Sir William there was really referring to what emotional suppression does long term. Right, we've come into this culture, and this is what we spoke about kind of on the podcast about, especially masculinity, where we just suck up all these emotions and we swallow them and we go,
Yeah, man.
"No, I'm a man. What do you mean? I'm supposed to be this way."
Yeah.
And the body takes count. It takes toll, right? If there's a little check off every time you keep swallowing those emotions without integrating them properly. But you know what? As men, we're not even taught how to. Right? We grew up in this machismo culture, especially me being in a Latin culture. That's very machismo. It's like, you don't cry, you're tough. And then when it's time to learn how to integrate emotions properly, we don't know how to. Then we meet a girl who teaches us how to do it. And then we go, oh my God, is this love? When in the meantime, we're just learning how to really integrate those emotions, which we never did. It's a pretty crazy cycle for us men, but in general, yeah, William Osler was on fire with that quote, so I had to put it up. It was one of the best received posts.
So, where do you think like the beginning of us leaning towards pharmaceutical drugs was kind of like an origination of looking out as opposed to within?
Yeah, for sure. Well, in many ways, in the medical culture, yes, certainly that changed the game, right? Because early 1800s, early 1900s, the medicine was more holistic, right? There was so many naturopathic colleges open, and then came this investigation, which was put out by the pharmaceutical industry, and that was a Morris Fishbine's investigation, if I'm correct, and then it basically was seeking to shut down all of these colleges, which were really teaching people how to treat folks holistically. And then came the outflow, and that changed the game, because then all of these schools which had a holistic approach were shutting down. We're talking about chiropractic colleges, naturopathic colleges, other colleges, I don't know, maybe acupuncture, but certainly chiropractic and naturopathic. They shut down, and then came the conventional medical paradigm. Then came the advent of things like antibiotics, and then that just changed the game too, right? Because then we found a way to be like, okay, you're sick, take this, instead of any other options. Nothing else, because we have a miracle cure now, a cure-all. But now we're learning, especially in the past 15 years, how that affects the whole body. Now, I'm certainly not against antibiotics, because if I go into the woods, I cut my foot, and I get a deadly infection, please give me some antibiotics. I don't want to die. But the way we're prescribing them it's overprescribed, and we're not looking at the consequence of what it does to the microbiome. And it does shift the microbiome. Sometimes it comes back, but sometimes there's a long-term shift, particularly when we see it in children early on. And that can predispose those children to later things like eczema and asthma. So we need to do better, at least educating each other to know that there's other options when a kid has a cold.
Yeah.
When you're feeling like you have a stomach issue, right? And maybe you ate some crappy food and it's not going away.Maybe there's other things we can do, because there is. So yeah, that's sort of along the lines of
it's remind me of like looking into. I was looking into the effects of there's like disinfectant bottles of whatever people carry around.
Yeah.
And I don't remember what one of the leading, or one of like the main is like tricilium or some kind of thing.
Triclosan.
Yes, thanks for knowing that. Yeah, exactly. And then that ends up leading to resistance of antibiotics.
It certainly does.
So it's like if we're skirting too much on just this superficial layer, it's almost like what we potentially end up doing is we end up just teaching that layer to adapt to our tricks. Yeah. Meanwhile, we forgot about looking on the internal parts, and then the internal part kind of atrophies, and then we're dependent on these external parts, and then we're in this bind.
Yeah, and that's like sort of a rule in all things with the body, right? Like there's atrophy, there's hypertrophy, but something like we've come to a place where I'm hoping that we're at a crossroads. But for the past few years, everyone goes, "Oh no, my kid we need hand sanitizer. We need to keep my kid clean, sanitized in a bubble."
Yeah.
But what we see is that affects the balance of the immune system, right? So now these kids are predisposed to things like allergies in the future, right? Just by disrupting their skin microbiome or their gut microbiome and their skin bacteria. So we can do much better. If I had a kid, certainly that kid would be rolling around in the dirt.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah, they sell. I go to like these like ancestral health conferences and stuff, and they like sell essentially dirt spray.
Yeah.
I'm like, you
figured it out.
That was
They
it.
figured it out. They're like, "Oh, I'm making millions on dirt spray or dirt capsules."
Dirt capsules.
You know, but it's so crazy because we were talking about this on the podcast. We've evolved with nature, right? So children evolved rolling around in the dirt. Children didn't evolve with antibiotics are new.
Yep.
When you look at the whole timeline of humanity, antibiotics are new. They're a little speck in our timeline. Our body still hasn't come near to adapting to it. And again, I will say I am not against antibiotics. When you need it, you need it. But they're overprescribed and our children are being affected. We're being affected. So yeah, if you have a kid, please don't be afraid about having that kid roll around on the floor. You know, don't be afraid about having the kid, if there's a little dirt on the vegetables, you don't need to scrub it off, right?
Yeah.
We're good.
Well, it makes them fear their environment. And then you get into, like we were talking about before, like you are your environment. You are the air. You are the sun. Like, you know, it sounds like some Native American shamanistic something, but it's like, no, it's like if you think you're separated, you just haven't looked at it close enough.
Certainly.
You know, and if you start to develop some type of pathological fear of your environment, you're developing a fear of yourself, I think. And then I wonder if there's any bridge into like autoimmune disorders and things like that, where it's like, oh, we're like attacking ourselves.
Yeah.
You know, and then perhaps could maybe the cells be listening as well.
Yeah, you'd make a good doctor, man.
Oh,
that's true. It's true because like think about it, like we have to stress mind and body. What is autoimmune disease? Okay, look, physiologically we can say it starts with gut permeability, and there's all of these different types of foreign proteins floating around the blood, and your body goes, oh no, we need to attack it, and then starts mistaking, quote unquote, different parts of the body, and then you have an autoimmune process, right?
Yep.
I don't believe the body makes mistakes ever. I believe it's way more sophisticated than any doctor, anyone, any scientist, anyone who says they know the body better than anyone in the world doesn't come close to understanding the intelligence and wisdom of the body, right? We can try to explain fully the process of clotting when you have a cut, but we don't even know the full process. So how can we ever claim that we know the full process of autoimmune disease? All we know is that we can quiet the immune system with immunosuppressant drugs, but what other layer is there, right? Is it a boundary thing? Is your personality one that doesn't draw boundaries, and the immune system goes, okay, well, I'm not going to draw boundaries? We have to think maybe something a little bit deeper mind-body wise, because you can't just treat the body and go, here, your autoimmune disease is gone. You have to treat it every single way, right? What are they eating? What is their mental state, right? Do they have a sense of purpose? We talked about all this, right?
Yeah,
do they fear the environment? Are we outside like the sun? I did a whole thing on Instagram about the importance of grounding, just being barefoot. And the best thing that I was seeing is these parents putting their children on the sand or on the dirt and taking videos of it. Like, this is what we're made to do. So, we need to get back to our roots, get back to nature.
How do people start doing that? How do you start coaching a patient in some of those more like alternative in quotations or holistic approaches without them rolling their eyes?
well, the way we're doing it, we talk about how we evolved with this, right? Our body knows this more than it does this protocol that I'm going to give you of supplements to help your gut, right?
Yeah.
Our body is more familiar with these whole foods in its whole form, right? Instead of you picking up a protein bar, right, that is organic, but it's still processed, right? Our body recognizes this stuff. So when you put it out to people, and me in particular with clients and patients, I say, look, this is how we evolved. It's very easy. And then when you say the word cheap, they go, wait a minute, I'm paying attention now. It's cheap. Yeah, right. You mean to tell me I'm going to spend $150 on these supplements, and then I could do this? You know, it's another story. So the problem is, folks, it's very ironic. We evolved like this. There's utmost importance, but it's the most resistant thing for people, right? To get outside, to get some sun.
Well, it seems too good to be true.
It seems too good to be true, but look how good we feel. We just did the sauna. I just jumped in the ice bath. We did some breathing. I mean, like
we did some dabs.
Yeah, we did some dabs.
Not like weed dabs, but like
fist pumps. We were happy. But I'll tell you right now, my digestive system feels good. You know, like what's going on? So there's something. There's these processes in our body that goes, hey, I've evolved with these type of things. So how do we stress our bodies in those ways?
I think it's interesting how some people have like this iron gut where it's like, oh, you just put anything inside me, I'll figure it out. It's all good. And then there's other people that are just like anything. Oh, I think there was gluten in the air.
Yeah.
You know, like what is the difference between, is that just a purely genetic thing or is there some type of way that you can kind of like nurture the terrain of your intestines?
We can try, but the thing is when we're young, we're sort of building up that population already. For example, let's take my dad. He grew up in Ecuador on a farm, right? He played...
Ecuadorian.
Yeah, half Ecuadorian.
Pupusas.
Yeah, exactly.
No, pupusas is El Salvador. Ecuador. What's the Ecuadorian?
They eat guinea pigs.
Oh yeah, kukui.
Which is crazy. I never did.
Yeah, that's very delicious.
Yeah, that's
you never did. It's a delicacy.
I don't eat animals.
0%.
0%.
Not even a guinea pig.
Yeah, not even a guinea pig
in Ecuador.
And my dad, he told me he ate it growing up, and then one time he saw it whole, and he was like, "Hell no."
Yeah,
and he never ate it again.
People just they raise them up in their house. They got them in like the cage, and it's like for that special occasion. If anybody invites you, I might be saying it wrong at this point. I was in Ecuador a while ago, but kukui.
I think it's cuy.
Cuy.
Yeah.
It's just C-U-I?
It's C-U-E-Y, I think.
There was like a couple. Anyway, so if they invite you in to eat some of their guinea pig, it's like a very big deal.
Yeah.
And if you say no,
then it's a big deal.
It's a big deal.
Yeah.
It's like a bummer.
Yeah. I certainly was in Ecuador, and they were like, how do we cook for you? I was like, I'll just eat that plantain. It's fine. I'm happy.
Yeah. If you say I'm vegetarian, they're like, okay, we'll just give you chicken. It's fine.
Now imagine doing that. Imagine doing that with a Puerto Rican family. You know, like it's the same thing. But yeah, my dad grew up on a farm, and he was playing Indians and cowboys. He had horses, and this man has a steel gut. Yep. You know, his microbiome must be variable with so many species, right? Assimilated to all these different types of foods. He can eat food that's moldy and be completely fine. Whereas someone like me who was treated with antibiotics so many times when I was young because I was persistently sick, and we didn't have much nature. I grew up in Queens, New York. You know, we had a lot of blacktop and, basketball courts, but I didn't have much access to that. And taking all these antibiotics has certainly made a shift in my microbiome. So it's really that terrain. Can we maximize what we have? Yeah, hell yeah, right? We do that with prebiotics. The importance of fiber, which is taken away by so many communities, even vegan community, even keto, even paleo. We all take away the importance of fiber. We need to add in fiber because that's what's feeding those good guys for us.
So where's the prebiotics and something? There's like chicory root and like what are
asparagus, onions, garlic.
Did I make up the chicory thing?
No, chicory root. No, chicory root is major. Yeah, chicory? Dandelion root. No, chicory.
Oh, chicory.
Dandelion root. They're dense in probiotics.
Yeah,
like,
that's good stuff.
Can we integrate at least 2 servings of probiotics a day? Just think about it that way.
And that's literally food for our bugs.
Yeah, they literally break down, and then when they get to our colon, our bugs go. It's a party, basically. They go, yes, it's a buffet. Like, we've been waiting for this. Thank you.
Cool.
Thank you for stop eating those Snickers. Thank you for stop eating the white rice bowl or the sushi. You know, we have prebiotics, and this is what we need more of. That's why I talk about fiber nutritionally so much.
And your bacteria is, in large part, what's actually creating nutrients, assimilatable nutrients for you.
We don't even know how comprehensive the microbiome is. Remember when we were talking on our podcast about what is really controlling our thoughts and decisions? What's a driver?
Dude. Yeah, toxoplasmosis.
Yeah, is it these
Brazilians
bugs
off cliffs on motorcycles?
Right. So we don't know, right? But we certainly have an immense amount of probiotics or bugs. Yeah. Right. We are sort of animated by these guys. Or a soul.
Well, they say we're only a 10th human, and we're 90% bugs,
crazy,
which is just ridiculous to say because it's just that you just are bugs.
So we are
There's
bugs.
No human, you're just bugs.
Yeah. So
even the 10th is really more alien than the bugs at that point.
Yeah, it's true. Isn't that crazy? So it's a matter of like paying close attention because we know that it helps with your immune system. We know that it helps you with your bowels. We know that it helps synthesize certain vitamins. Okay, that's great. That's all great and good. But now we're seeing some connection in the mood, the way, the access between our gut and our brain, right? We're seeing things with weight loss, modulating weight loss for people. So the bigger picture is, are we disrupting these buggers? Or are we feeding them and giving them love, right? Sometimes I'll be like, when I used to do pediatrics, I'm like, you have all these like really good pets in your stomach. You need to give them good food, otherwise they get skinny and they pass away. So I go, oh, okay, yeah. So they at least understanding that we have to have a relationship with our digestive system. Most of health is coming from there anyway.
What about fecal transplants?
They work. They work, but they have to be done well.
Is that the same as tossing somebody's salad?
No, it won't work the same way. Although you might get some different probiotics.
Salad you're tossing.
Right, you can't.
So says science.
Let me say a side note. This is pretty funny. I was just talking to someone this weekend, and she was telling me up till when she was 16, she thought tossing someone's salad meant like really confusing them. So one time she comes home and she's like,
so tossing my salad.
Yeah. She's like, Mom, you should have seen I was tossing everyone's salad. No one knew what I was talking about. And her mom's like, don't say that anymore. So it's not the same.
It doesn't work the same way?
No.
You can't ingest
No, you can't.
bugs
No, you can't.
orally?
It's a little different. No.
Wow,
We had Dr. Mary Pardee on my show, on the Heal Thyself show, and she spoke about fecal transplants. So we know that it is more effective on the short term and long term than antibiotics when it comes to the treatment of something called C. diff. This is basically an infection that people get hospitalized for. It's pretty aggressive. So the efficacy is very close to antibiotics, but it's much better when it comes to relapses of the C. diff. So more and more, it's becoming really, really popular throughout the country. When I was in my residency and I was doing the GI rotation, that doctor was really into fecal transplants. Now, you have to have a healthy donor.
Sounds like a fetish.
It is, right? She was really into fecal transplants. Like, I've never seen someone so into it. But it's going to be so important to get a healthy donor. Yeah. Healthy donor has to be mentally healthy, because remember I talked about gut-brain connection, and physically healthy. So you'd be a good donor. You should sell your poop. And
was there good money in the poop business?
I haven't seen. I don't know. But maybe there is.
I wish I could sell eggs. That's where the money's at.
That's where the money's at.
No one
it certainly
gives a
is.
shit about semen.
No. No one does. Not anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool. The fecal transplants is something to really look into. I think
changes
it's making
people's mood. Changes people's.
It can.
I heard a story of there was. I don't remember the specific details, but essentially it was like, they had to be like close relatives. It was like cousins or something like that. Yeah. One was really overweight, and the other one was like this marathon athlete person. They did a switch. I don't remember the specific reason why they did that, but essentially what they found was I think it was the athlete person got the overweight person's fecal transplant, I'm pretty sure. And she just became, overweight and like all this stuff.
Isn't that crazy?
She like took on her traits.
Yeah, so that's
what
happens
with mood in relation to like depression, happiness as well.
Hell yeah, that's why I said mentally stable, and they have to be screened. And there's a lot of companies out there that aren't properly screening, so there has to be a proper screening process going, because it can certainly, theoretically, or what we see actually clinically, what you was talking about, and I was talking about with the GI doctor on the show, is that it can change your mood, right?
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah.
So we're getting impacted. We're breathing shit particles in all day, though, right?
Oh yeah, all day.
So how does one need to ingest the shit particles in order for it to be like a proper fecal transplant
It can be in a capsule, or it can go the other way, like an enema.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you got to swallow it.
Yeah, you
Tossing
can.
Tossing salad's not going to work.
Tossing salad's not going to. You need exactly.
Yeah,
exactly.
It's like a barrier.
A protective capsule to release it exactly where it needs to be released.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a process.
The intestines, and then the poo diffuses through your intestines and like becomes a part of your guts at that point.
So it's sort of like
like new roommates.
Yeah, exactly. It's like
bringing it like, okay, here's the guys.
Yeah.
He's kind of. His skin's kind of an asshole. He stays up really late. Circadian rhythm's all fucked up.
Exactly.
They'll integrate and start to menstruate together.
It's literally new roommates. Like you have your college, and then the freshmen come in, and they're just like populating the whole college, right? And you're like, I could be cool with this guy.
So are you ever not inoculating yourself or integrating roommates into your system? I mean, you'd be doing that every time you wake up, every time you take a breath, right?
So, well, look, there's a sophisticated symphony with our environment, right? You can't measure everything. There's so much more going on than we think.
Well, we're not a
container. It's not a vacuum. Exactly. Yeah, it's impossible. But we do know that one of the major, like I said before, one of the major influencers is the prebiotics. So if you want to give love to those good bacteria, what you have, then yes. If you have a process going on in your digestive system and you're not getting better and it's getting worse and worse and worse, or you're having recurrent infections, then certainly a fecal transplant could be something that you could look into. You just have to get with the right people.
At what point does the mind affect your bacteria?
It can. It certainly
we're talking about the bacteria affecting the mind, like bottom up.
It's an axis.
Is there a top down?
Yeah, it's an axis. Yeah, it goes around. Like we can, if there's exercises that we can do, literally that can help people with that connection with the vagus nerve, that can help people relax their digestive system. Just a meditation will get someone pooping. Right. I always tell this story. I had a patient once. She came to me and she goes, Dr. G, I can't poop. I haven't pooped in a week, and it's been going on. I've been going like once a week for the past 2 years, 2.5 years ago. 2 years, 2.5 years. What happened 2 years ago? And she couldn't really pinpoint it. She didn't tell me everything. Then she's like, hey, Dr. G, I'm pooping again. I go, what happened? She goes, I broke up with my boyfriend. Right? Like that external stress.
Yeah, contracting.
Of course, exactly. Holding her breath, contracting her nerves, her nervous system, sympathetic.
What about you talked about growing up in, or you didn't grow up in Latin America. You grew up in New York?
In New York, yeah. New York, New Jersey.
Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
I mean, whatever. I'm working on being more proud from being from Pennsylvania. Actually.
Yeah.
I think that's an interesting thing of not. I moved to Hawaii when I was 18, and I was kind of like, screw Pennsylvania. That place is,
kind of boring.
Whack.
Yeah. What part?
Lancaster.
Lancaster. Oh, you were there, huh?
I was in it.
Okay, you were in it. Yeah, I know that.
Yeah.
Hershey Park area.
Hershey Park.
Yeah.
Man. The bear. That was my favorite roller coaster.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that there's actually something to having shame of where one grows up, as opposed to embracing that as being like so perfectly unique and valuable, because it literally is you.
Yeah.
And so I had this realization recently, in the last like month or two or something like that, of like, I've been like, for the last like decade, I've been like almost, when I'd say I'm from Pennsylvania, I'd always have that same reaction that I just did, like, wow, whatever. It's, but it's like, no, fuck that. Like Pennsylvania.
Yeah, exactly. Why not? You're right. Like that, you had that environment.
It's a part of you.
Yeah, that environment helped build your digestive system, right?
Yeah, man.
Like you were, think about it. Like I talk a lot about environmental medicine, environmental toxins. Like you were growing up around the same time in Pennsylvania as I was growing up in Queens, New York. Right. We were getting exposed to very different influences in our body, right? You had more farmland over there, right? Maybe more pesticides, but I certainly had the Long Island Expressway right outside of my place. I had a bunch of pollution and smog. Like we have to think about, like, we are the environment that we grew up in.
But then within that, you become more sensitive to
different things.
Yeah. So you're like, your nervous system is more responsive to potential threats.
Yeah.
So you know, if I was walking down the street in Ecuador or whatever, I'd probably be like this garage sale.
Yeah.
Whereas you walk down, you look all sly and cool.
Right.
Like, I know where I'm at.
Yeah. Exactly. So it's like, let's make peace, people, with where we are from. Yeah. And appreciate it and send some love to it.
You had. Does one always have Epstein-Barr? What is that?
Well, yeah, I had it in college. So, look, you can put it in a remission, but viruses tend to just always hang out, especially in your nerves, right? They're just hanging out until you're stressed again. Yep. So there can be a reactivation of the Epstein-Barr.
What is it?
Epstein-Barr is a virus, and it's
mono, right?
Yeah,
like
remember the kissing disease?
Mono? Yeah, right.
So when you were younger, they told you. So it's usually transmitted through saliva. But it's like when you're hungover and you didn't sleep at all and your body hurts and you're dehydrated and you're dragging because your feet feel like lead. Yeah. That's sort of like how someone feels all the time. And when I was in med school, one of my classmates had it for 3 months. We saw him a few times. And I got it. And I promise you I wasn't kissing anyone. Oh. But I don't know how I got it. But it really put me out for the count for a long time too. Went away, and then it recurred after so much stress last year, just moving stress, like work and all that stuff. But then it hit me. But we also have the power to do so much. So I was like, all right, I was a student in the beginning. Now I'm a teacher in many ways. So like, let me put it all to the test. Man, I was outside. I was in the ocean. I was in the sun. I was eating prebiotics. I was taking some strong herbs, that we have for that. And exercising and sweating as much as I can. At the time I didn't have a sauna, but I was going to the sauna, IR sauna all the time and sweating it out. And it was a quarter of the time that I suffered with it. And it never came back.
I always wonder when people suffer from some form of like disease, I think oftentimes that is a symptom of some deeper like emotional unrest, and we like to, I think it's easier to put it as like I was doing like acro yoga lessons thing with a person today, and they're like, oh, it's harder for me because I have a scoliosis and I have like a, excessive lumbar lordosis. And like, I have this thing, it's a thing that's on me. It's like a parasite. It's on me, as opposed to it being something that I've patterned myself over, repetitions over and over again and living my life.
Yeah.
I wonder with like something like an Epstein-Barr, for example, is there any kind of like emotional component to the production of that?
Look, we are the mind. We are the body, right? And all disease, we have to very first and foremost look at what is going on mentally, emotionally, right? Are you holding things in? Are you happy with your job? Like, what's going on deeper? Then we look into the physical body, because you're right, the physical body is just a manifestation. It's sort of like the end point of the process that's been going on.
Yeah.
But when it comes to, this is now we're getting into Joe Dispenza territory, right? Like our thoughts can actually control a lot. So I'm not saying like you're diagnosed with cancer, go into your room and meditate the whole time. That's going to be amazing for you. But I can't say clinically,
see shamans in Peru
and
eat ayahuasca and whatnot, and they come back and it works a lot of the time.
Yeah.
It's like, is that the ayahuasca or is the fact that you had a pattern interrupt?
Yeah. So clinically, I can't just be like, that's going to work. But certainly you have to do that, and I do oncology more than anything. And I have this pie that I draw, and a big piece of the pie is mental, emotional, like suppression of everything, traumas, big traumas, little traumas, all of that stuff that you're holding in has to be addressed. If you're diagnosed with cancer and you're just getting chemo, radiation, and surgery, and you're doing it wrong, you need more, right? So that's sort of what I've done with my career is teaching people, all right, well, let's think nutritionally, let's think environmental medicine, let's test for these things first and foremost. But then I'm going to send you to my guy in San Diego. He's going to do some deep emotional work. You might cry, you might puke, you might burp, whatever it is, but stuff is going to come out, and I'm not opposed to all of that stuff. I'm actually a big proponent of plant medicine, because at the very least, folks who are at the end of their life can make peace with it. Right.
Yeah.
When you see your reality, your truth.
Yeah, psilocybin's been shown to be really helpful with that.
Yeah, and I've talked to and spoke with. I had dinner with Rick Doblin years ago from MAPS.
He's been on here.
Yeah. Oh, has he?
Yeah.
I need to get him on my show.
Yeah,
then.
he's great.
Yeah. So, but when he just first started doing the double-blind study. So, look, the consciousness of us as doctors, hopefully, knock on wood, is changing. Certainly for the holistic community, conventionally, let's see. But for the people, oh yeah, for sure. We're looking for more. And there's a mental emotional component. It's my favorite part of medicine, mental emotional stuff, consciousness.
Have you heard that with breast cancer? There's like a consistency of women kind of like continuing to be helping and supporting others, but not necessarily feeding back into themselves. Have you heard that? Like,
sometimes. I heard
some bullshit? I don't know.
No. At this point in my career, I don't write off anything.
Yeah.
If I hear someone tell me something, I'll look into it for sure. But I will never say you're wrong because I only know, and this is never seen on studies. How the hell are you going to measure that?
Yeah.
But I've heard something along the lines of like women losing a child or a kid going to school or something, that sort of like that nurturing. I mean, it's symbolic of mom, right? Milk feeding. So. Maybe a disruption in that. I believe in energetics. We are energy. How the hell are we going to look past
so
it?
What causes cancer? Why is that such a tough nut to crack?
This is the most loaded question I think I've got on a podcast. I think it's multifactorial. We cannot say that just because you didn't eat apples all your life, you got cancer.
Yeah.
That would be wrong.
Right. 2 apples a day.
2 apples a day. Conversely, we can't say what conventional medicine is saying, oh, it was just genetic, because that's wrong too. It's not just genetic. It's 5 to 10% genetic. The rest is the epigenetics part. And we love Bruce Lipton, you and I, we talked about this.
Yeah.
But it's multifactorial. There's a nutrition component. There's an infection component. And not for everyone, it's a combination of each. Inflammatory component, there's a balance of insulin in the body component, and there's certainly the most intriguing one for me is the environmental, right? Environmental medicine. What were you exposed to? Mold, formaldehyde all your life? Occupationally, what were you exposed to? We can measure that. We can see it in the urine. Does your genetic makeup, are you more sensitive to styrene, the chemical, whereas I can metabolize it way easier? Or am I more sensitive to benzene, but you metabolize it much easier? Because both really lead to cancer, right? So if we're building up in the body, so that's really an intricate part of that, the environmental medicine part. And then certainly is the whole energetic, emotional traumas, suppression, all of that crazy stuff that we love, but is sort of like poo-pooed away from conventional medicine as woo-woo, is one of the most important, if not the most important part of cancer medicine.
I wonder what, like, I've experienced this, of being trained into being victimizing myself because I've been rewarded with that translates to care, or love or appreciation or acknowledgement. Whereas if you take yourself out of that victim place, then you're like, oh, like maybe I'll be out on my own at that point.
Yeah.
And so kind of like I've just noticed that trend throughout my life, like having fear of leaving victimhood. Mm-hmm. And I wonder if that could potentially lead into some degree of like a sickness manifesting. If like,
maybe.
Oh, this puts me extra victim. I'm not putting that on cancer in general, but just as a general thing.
Yeah, and I certainly never write off. If someone comes in and they have physical symptoms, they just go, Dr. Gonzalez, you don't know, I have these digestive issues, and then I have anxiety attacks, or I faint all the time. I have panic attack. I get it. But I always want to submit. Me as a doctor, I will never just do the physical part and ignore everything else. So I always submit once I, tell them we do all the studies, like what they came for, right? Like the real doctor stuff, right? Yeah. But then I always submit the really important stuff, the stuff that's important for me to tell the patient. And what that is saying, all right, like what is your mental mind throughout life? Like what has been your mental chatter? What is the theme? What is the story? What's your relation to yourself, to your mom, to your dad, to your siblings, to your friends, to the world outside of you? What is that? And has it been serving you? And is there an alarm part of it, right? Because what's to say that someone who has continuous spells of anxiety didn't grow up being rewarded for being the victim when they were kids? Right? And it's just, and they forgot it. They grew up, right? They matured. They let that go, they think. Yeah. But it's just a story that's still in them, and at least in their subconscious or stuck in their body. And then it's coming out, and, they're getting rewarded in different ways, right? Maybe with their partner now. Instead of their mom, now it's with their partner. And they go, honey, I'm just so anxious. I don't know why this is happening to me all the time. Yeah. And then they're getting rewarded. Yeah. So that's the hardest part of medicine, is to teach people what their stories are. It's the craziest part of medicine too, yeah. But
you got to be able to step outside, be able to have your meta story, be able to witness.
Yeah,
what I've been telling myself. I wonder, like you were. I have all the things. You have all the things. We have herpes and cancer. And it's all in there.
It's all there. It's all there.
It's just a matter of which expresses.
Yeah.
Based off of your
everything.
Your story.
Everything. Yeah. It's like
your environment, which is a part of your story.
It's crazy. It's crazy to think we catch a cold. I'm like, no, that cold's been there. There's trillions and trillions, and it's a symphony, right? It's supposed to be in perfection, but when we eat like shit, we have this crazy mental chatter, we're in a terrible environment, we're disconnected from nature, then there's that imbalance happening. And then we go, oh no, I caught a cold. No, you've had that cold. It's just being expressed. Oh no, I caught cancer. No, that your body created that cancer for a very particular reason. So I think we have to learn in medicine, to everyone, naturopathic doctors, chiropractors, functional doctors, MDs, NDs, DOs, everyone needs to understand better how we work with the body rather than thinking we're smarter than it and going, I'm going to outsmart the body right now. Because we can put that stuff under the rug and then it comes back later as something else. So that's the most important part, I think, as practitioners that we can do. But as a community, man, we need to get back to nature. We need to talk to each other. We need to have a sense of purpose. You know, people who have a sense of purpose do better, have less sickness. There's even, you can look up studies about that. They go to the doctor less.
Yeah.
What are we here for? Are we aligned with our soul's purpose?
Yeah.
What is it? Do you even know what it is? How do we get in touch with that? So that's the whole consciousness part that people need to really put weight on.
Yeah, I think just getting your story right is such a big deal. Like there was, I had her on the podcast. She's like a superstar in the world of psychology. She did a thing called the Maids Study. Her name's going to pop up in my mind. And she told a bunch of maids. She had two groups of maids. One group, they just let them go about their business, cleaning up the rooms, vacuuming, all that stuff. The other group, she told the maids that she is embarrassing because she's been on the damn podcast. But anyway, she told them like, wow, you're like burning all these calories and you're like hinging your hips and activating your glutes and your job is exercise. You're fully exercising.
Yeah.
And then what she found after that was there was a significant change in the group that was told they were exercising. All of a sudden they started burning more fat and they gained muscle and everything went up in a good way.
It's true. It's literally
so
true.
You
the
change
power.
the story,
Yeah.
and all of a sudden you're like, oh, I'm killing it.
So now, exactly.
Versus like, I'm just some slave just sweeping away.
Exactly. So now imagine people who wake up and they're like, oh, this goddamn alarm. Oh, okay, I'm going to get up. Drag themselves to the kitchen, drag themselves to the car, drag themselves to work. Imagine what that does to their psyche. Now imagine people who are aligned with their purpose. They feel good, right? They look good. They're mentally radiating. It's those folks, I bet you those maids who did that workout, when they went out into the world, they were radiating something that reminded us of something deeper within ourselves. And we're like, I want what she has or he has, you know? And can we do more of that, right? Can we teach each other how to be? The power of suggestion is huge. That's the whole placebo thing, right? Placebo is real.
She did another thing. She has a book. We got to look this up. It's called Counterclockwise. Okay. And she did another thing where she brought a bunch of old folks into this specific home as a part of this research study. And she reversed the clock back. I think it was maybe 25 years, 30 years or something. And she had all the same newspapers from that time. She had the football game up, the president talking on the TV.
Oh, that's so cool.
And same shit. All of a sudden, she found these people regress back to their 25-year-old younger self, and their fingers got longer, and their vision got better. And
that's amazing.
So if we play this story, you know, if you get involved in your own story, like you can weave your tale.
Yeah, and it's all up to, it's a lot of responsibility, right? We have to be the master of our own stories. Yeah. And wow, that's crazy to hear that. But I feel it because like. Remember when you were listening to songs in that time in college when you were really vibrant? I mean, it was sometimes I think like, oh yeah, I was really like out there, you know, working out and running around. Like I had all this quote unquote time on my hands. I hear those songs and I'm like, oh yeah, I feel good.
Still in it.
It's still in it. Like it brings you back, and it's always will be in you that memory.
Yeah.
So can we tap into that?
Yeah. What surprised you in the world of oncology?
What surprised me in the world of oncology is how short-sighted conventional oncology is. But what I mean by short-sighted is that when I was in my residency, I was like, that's it? Like, there's nothing on the scan, and then they're going to go home and go back to doing what they were doing?
You mean the mold that created the cancer, right? They're going to go back into that.
Yeah, exactly. Like
press them back.
They go, and I've been there. They're like, there's nothing on your scans. You're healthy. Go back and live your life. I said, oh, okay. So the minute I was out of that residency, I created like a program for people who are done for what to do in their lives after. Because what happens is that's the oncology story. You go home, you live your life, knock on wood, everything's good for the first year, maybe even the second year, but then it comes back way more aggressive, right? Because of the chemo. And I'm not saying I'm not against chemo. I'm not against chemo. There's a time and place for it. I also think that's overused too, but still.
When is the time and place? Sorry, I interrupted.
Yeah,
but
no.
Interesting. It's another like very charged question.
Well, look, if we find a cancer in what they call in situ, right? When it's basically not a full-blown cancer, it's like a stage 0. Many times we'll see that cancer being treated with radiation, good surgery, chemotherapy, right? Really aggressive when that might have never even became cancer, right?
Yeah, right, exactly.
So
that's why doctors, what is the term? There's a term. But going to a doctor, creating a disease essentially.
Yeah, I mean,
because they have all these instruments and tools to find the thing, and then we find it. Now we're attacking this thing, and it becomes this whole.
Because that's the only tools they have.
Yeah,
that's the only tools they have, right?
Yeah.
What purposefully has been taught to them.
Yeah,
but then in the meantime, there is a time and place, because if I have a cancer in my pancreas and it's impinging in my spleen, and impinging in my stomach, and pushing on my ribs, I certainly, and all that's going to go down the drain anytime soon. I certainly need to get aggressive treatment for that.
right.
But there is, like, when you go down the conventional route, it's only 25% of what someone needs to do. You are lucky if you get conventional treatment and then you are without cancer ever again. Few and far between are folks getting conventional treatment and going, oh, I had conventional treatment 25, 30 years ago. Nowadays, there needs to be a lot more. There needs to be programs set for people nutritionally, environmental medicine, inflammation, insulin, infections, everything that has to do with why cancer was created in the body. We have to address that, right? You have the field and you got all the weeds, and conventional medicine is the best at burning it with radiation and throwing chemicals at it with chemo and cutting the weeds with surgery.
Yeah.
And then the picture that we get when it's done is a field with no weeds, right? Sometimes no grass too, right? Because it's really aggressive stuff. But they go, look, the field's fine. And then we expect the weeds never to grow. We don't even touch the soil.
What's the value of cancer? Like, what's the like? Sometimes I ask that of like mosquitoes. I'm like, fucking mosquitoes, man.
Yeah.
Why have we?
Like, what's the value? So
there's a purpose of cancer.
Yeah, there certainly is. What I've seen clinically is I've seen cancer at least in one patient. I've seen it in few, but certainly in one, that cancer was holding in a lot of these environmental toxins, particularly for her. She had, and look, people have tattoos from finger to toe and everywhere in between under their arms, and they're fine because genetically they're fine. But this young girl wasn't fine, right? And then she worked in a salon, right? So she was dyeing hair over and over, spraying all that crap, breathing it in.
Under artificial lights.
Under artificial light, exactly. Wasn't working out. Ate like crap.
Around toxic conversations.
Yeah.
People dumping their emotional shit on top of that person. She might be
every day,
like an empath of sorts, and
every
she's
day
like carrying it.
See, now you're getting it. Exactly. That's exactly what it is. And then eating like crap. And then she had a stressful ex-boyfriend, or baby's father. And this was the perfect storm for this particular woman, right? Every case is different. But what I do know is that tumor was holding in all of that crap, because when we did all these toxin testing, it was through the roof, 99 percentile, everything. But I've read many case reports, and look, is there ever going to be a double-blind study on this type of stuff? Probably not. But clinically, when you see the power of how things work, it's a different story, right? So why cancer? I think the body has a very sophisticated way of creating cancer. There's different theories out there. One of them is based on our body reverting to an ancient default program, right? Like sort of how we evolved when we were primitive, that we have this default program that creates this cancer to protect us when everything is out of whack. So it's like sort of our computer, right? We have all of this shit on our computer. We got all these games. We're downloading all these games. There's porn on the computer, all these viruses. And then all of a sudden the computer goes, all right, I'm going to shut down and I'm going to go back into just default mode. So all you can do is open up Word and that's it. Or open up the desktop. So there's actually a whole theory beyond this, and I find that super intriguing. We don't know. We don't know the exact cause, all the causes, or what happens in the body, but I do certainly think that cancer is a mechanism within the body that is intelligent. Why it's created, we don't know. Yeah, cancer is crazy. It's the craziest disease of all. And of course I jumped into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think there's a cure? Is that a stupid word?
Well, I don't think a cure is ever going to come in a medication. I don't think, because the more we try to target this, the more that something else happens, right? There's never going to be, I don't believe there's ever going to be a perfect cure in the form of a chemotherapy. A chemotherapy is so powerful, but it's like shooting an atomic bomb when you see a deadly ant in the woods,
right?
And the whole woods is demolished. And then you have things like immunotherapy, which are great because they work with the immune system, which is a really good step in the right direction. But then in the meantime, the side effects are so nasty,
Yeah. Is it like a fungus in the sense that they are, I'm pretty sure, I don't know anything about a lot of things, but this is part of it. It's so similar to human DNA that it's hard to pinpoint it throughout the body. So in order to kill the specific thing, the intruder, because it's so similar to human, you end up like killing all of it. Is cancer like clever in that it can kind of
It
like
certainly
mask
is
as being like, I'm a part of you, I am you?
Oh, yeah, we know, that's for sure. Across all disciplines, we know that cancer can cloak itself, right? It can evade the immune system.
Right.
But the question is, why is it evading the immune system? Is it because it's an enemy evading the immune system?
How does it cloak itself?
Well, there's different like proteins that it's shooting out, and it's saying, "Hey, look, I'm hiding." It's like camouflage mode.
Damn.
You know, but
because it wants to survive.
Yeah, but we also see that in yeast, and we also see that in fungus, right?
Do you think it wants to help you?
I don't know. That's what I'm saying. Like that. Like, like we have to think deeper in medicine. Trust me, look, I practice very much so evidence-based. Like I will read studies and I will not give anything to people because I'm a conservative practice with all of that. But I certainly know for a fact there's a need for everything else in medicine. We can do so much better with cancer, so much better. We are only doing 20% good. We need to do way better in cancer care. So the other, let's say 60, 70%, I'm trying to do too. That's why I say what you're telling me, it always gets my gears going because I'm open to whatever the universe is influencing me with to go, all right, let me look into that, because maybe I'm learning something from someone. Maybe you heard it from a shaman in Ecuador. Well, how can I write off a shaman in Ecuador because there's no double-blind placebo-controlled study that was done in the middle of the jungle? How do I not know that person isn't better equipped than any oncologist in the world? Again, I'm taking it with a disclaimer. I'm not saying if you're diagnosed with cancer, don't go conventional route. I'm protecting my butt too. But I am saying pay close attention to everything else that has to do with that soil and the weeds.
Are there we'll wrap up here soon, are there some standout need to knows as far as buying consumer products such as deodorants, perfumes, toothpaste? Is there some way to how do we weed through that without spending $14 for every product?
Yeah, I mean, look, for some people, especially women,
or maybe we need to spend. We depend on the product.
Yeah, I mean, but especially for women with makeup, it's difficult to do that transition.
Yeah.
But cleaning products are so quick that you can do that in your house, right? I speak about the environmental working group so much because they have a Skin Deep database or even the Think Dirty app. You can know now, with an illustration or a graph or infographic, whatever it is, what's the quality of the stuff you have in your home, right? So right now at this point, we have no excuse to take that extra step. Then we'll get a big list and we'll go, this one, let me see how much it is. Oh, within my finance or my budget, I can get this one. Because now the demand is going up, they're producing so much more that things are getting cheaper. Back like 10 years ago, to get, and deodorants are more expensive, relatively speaking, than, the conventional ones, but they were way more expensive. They were way more expensive, the cleaning supplies, the shampoos. But now there's more companies trying to get a little piece of that pie now. Yeah. So we can do better, but just cross-reference everything you use with the Environmental Working Group because right now they're the leaders in environmental medicine right now. So we can do it, and we can do better with whatever you choose, whatever personal care products.
So what there's like glyphosate and phthalates, the plastic particles get in your water and whatnot. What are some like the standout user's manual 101 with buying products, that stuff that we want to avoid? Users
101, try to get organic when you can. The label is far from perfect, but certainly the label is a better standardization that tells people, at least on paper, that there's no glyphosate in it. But not only glyphosate, other pesticides, other herbicides, right? Antibiotics, irradiation, sewer sludge, all of this stuff that shouldn't be in food in the first place, which I don't even know why it's there. Still, now we know, okay, it's not in there. Again, far from perfect. Better than that is developing a relationship with someone in your farmer's market and going, hey, hey, Joe and Cindy, what's your farm about? And then if they're proud to tell you, and they go, no, come visit. I'll show you everything. Then you've come closer to your food source. And if you can't afford all organic, then, just look in the Clean 15 Dirty Dozen by Environmental Working Group. And then the exact 12 foods that have to be organic, but then the Clean 15, the other ones that don't need to be. Okay. So then you're putting yourself in a better place. That's a powerful resource. Cross-reference with the Think Dirty app or the Skin Deep on the Environmental Working Group, all of the stuff that you're using that you want to make a change for. Those are major ones. Now, one thing I will say, and USDA organic does not always mean no heavy metals. You can find heavy metals in food. Heavy metals are an issue. They are real, and they cause a lot of issues, and they can lead to cancer. So 101 is find yourself a functional doctor, find yourself a naturopathic doctor or an integrative doctor or practitioner who can run tests on you, right? And my thing is like, you're a healthy guy, but say you came to me, we'll do a nutritional test. We want to see where you're nutritionally at. Well, what can you use more for? Maybe you could just eat some more magnesium. So maybe take in some more magnesium.
I haven't pooped my pants on magnesium for a week. I'm good.
Okay, good. All right. but like maybe we can personalize a little bit more. Environmental toxin test. Everyone has to take that, because if we're exposed to something and it's 99 percentile, that has to be removed, and we have to find out why. Consequently, maybe you could just get a really good air purifier or something like that. And then a heavy metal test would be really important too.
Do we need shower filters?
I mean, theoretically, or actually not even theoretically, we know that the chlorine is a major issue, especially when you're taking a hot shower. When you're taking a hot steaming one. Yeah. Exactly. We absorb, certainly in the shower. I don't have one. I have a water filter, and maybe I should get a shower filter, but I just never got one. But water filter is so important. You're ingesting this every single day. I drink a lot of water. So why not get a high quality water filter that removes fluoride, number one, antibiotics, hormones, antidepressants, all of that crap that's in our water, which shouldn't be there anyway.
Is reverse osmosis?
That's a great one. Yeah, reverse osmosis will do it. I have a Berkey water filter, which is cheaper than reverse osmosis and pretty much does the same thing.
My final curiosity, prostate cancer.
Oh, yeah.
Do we need to be putting stuff in our butt to perturbate the prostate, to get prostate massage? We gotta go see a therapist. What do we gotta do to not get? Because apparently that's like you just get prostate cancer.
Yeah, right. Yeah.
No.
You're like, I don't stand for that.
I don't stand for that.
No. The two major things is dairy, right? If you're having dairy all the time, you got to cut that down. That's one of the major interventions I make always for prostate cancer. Dairy. It shouldn't even be part of your diet consistently or if ever.
So raw butter, no.
No, I'm talking about like milk and especially cheese, right?
Pasteurize more than raw or either or?
I would do more the, that's a hard question.
I'm putting you on it.
Yeah, that's a hard one. Let's get back to that one because I can't answer that. I want to answer all these questions like really on point for you.
No, I appreciate it.
But we have people drinking glasses of conventional milk on their cereal.
Yeah, I don't think that's the right decision.
Eating cheese from Kraft. Right, so we have to pay very close attention.
Pour on their Kellogg's, which he was against girls having. He wanted to pour carbolic acid on girls' clitoris.
Who did?
Kellogg.
Oh God.
Kellogg.
Oh God.
He was a weird guy.
He
wanted people to have kids to put. It was like some type of device you'd put over your foreskin, so that every time the penis would get erect, it would like create a lot of pain. It would go back into flaccid.
Yeah. Oh Jesus.
That's the Kellogg.
I didn't know that.
Cornflakes.
Yeah, that's the cornflakes.
So cornflakes was to lower people's libido. So if you eat like junky, shitty food, you won't get hard-ons.
That's very interesting.
Science.
I wonder what the motivation. Yeah, it's science, right? But like, if you have a history of prostate cancer or a family history of prostate cancer, pay very close attention to your ingestion of dairy. I'm realistic. I know people will still have dairy, right? So if there's the family history, please reduce that. That's number one. And then plasticizers, phthalates, BPA, right? Super important. If that's a driver of prostate and breast cancer. If you're drinking Dannon bottles every single day, that's a major issue. Whether or not you have prostate cancer family history or not, please don't drink plastic bottles. Please pay close attention to where you're getting your water from, right? That's why, like I said, the Berkey, and I make no money from it, I promise you, the stainless steel, it's stainless steel.
Right.
And I have a steel spigot. So there's no plastic, and so much better than what we're doing, right? And then plasticizers, you can breathe it in. It's in, new furniture that you're bringing in. So air quality. Right, that's I give you a bonus. Air quality, really important in your home, right?
Yeah.
Is there air flow, or do you have an air purifier or something, right? Because we got to think about eating, breathing and exposures. So overall,
With the plastic, the thing that we don't see, because we see the Dasani bottle or whatever, and it's like nice and cold, and it's like, wow.
Yeah.
But before that, it was probably sitting under the sun in some
Yeah.
hot spot, and essentially,
Yeah.
water's a solvent, and it's sitting in there, essentially just making like a phthalate tea. I don't say it right. Phthalate?
phthalates.
Phthalate?
No, you don't have to do
God dang it.
just say like phthalates.
Phthalate.
Yeah, there you go. It's yeah. It's like it's
I'll
yeah.
figure this out.
Yeah, but it's so important, right? Like we have to pay close attention to all these new things that are coming into our environment and what we're ingesting and what. So think about hot liquid, really, really cold, really acidic, really basic like milk. If that's touching plastic, it's leaching, period. Hot food that you're cooking, you got something in a crock pot, you throw it in plastic, that's leaching.
Right.
So, get yourself some glass bottles. I have a stainless steel or glass water bottle I use in my home, and some holders, right? Like if you have plastic Pyrexes, change that and just get glass ones. That's easy interventions, cheap, but they go a really long way.
Cool. Thanks so much, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
All these ridiculous
Yeah.
questions.
Yeah.
Where should people go from here? Where do people learn more about your stuff?
Oh, yeah. So my Instagram is at doctor.g, at Dr. G. There's an underscore somewhere there, but it's fine. You'll find it. And Heal Thyself is the podcast, which you were just on. And man, I probably should get a website at this point. So I've been 5 years out of school.
Anybody goes to a website
No,
anymore.
really, yeah. I feel like people are just going in and out of social media.
Look at your Instagram.
Yeah, listen, I haven't built one because Instagram has been like a website. So
the issue with the Instagram or any social media platform is you don't own it.
Oh.
So literally, you could put your last decade.
Yeah.
It's like, it's my life's work.
Yeah,
And then
it's
Instagram's
gone.
like, sorry, bitch, we're done.
Gone.
I'm out.
Deleted. Yeah. Like yeah.
No.
Yeah, I know. I'm sort of hedging my stuff. So, but you can find me on there. And look, I'm talking everywhere. Like I'm on podcasts and I go on stage. So like this is my jam.
Appreciate it, man.
Yeah. Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for doing it.
All right, brother.
All right, we'll have to keep on doing the cold plunge. All right, over now. Pow. Hope you guys enjoyed that conversation as much as I did. I want to present y'all with a fun opportunity of starting a program that I created called the Align Method Online Program that focuses on unwinding the unsightly patterns of staring into technology, essentially. So forward head posture, rolled forward shoulders, hyperkyphotic spine, disengaged glutes, knees collapsing in. If there's collapse in any level in the body, it will trickle up and down through the rest of the system. And that program focuses on unwinding those things, giving you self-care practices, movement practices, and lifestyle adjustments, very subtle ones, that will give y'all more flexibility, more strength, more confidence, more energy, all the good things. And you can start the first week absolutely free and just go to alignpodcast.com/Align Method, ALIGN method. Along with that guy, you will receive the Align band, which is a heavy-duty resistance band with a door anchor, and that also comes with its own online program that is free with that thing. Go to alignband.com and start that program for free. I think that's it. I so greatly appreciate you guys listening to this conversation. So greatly appreciate reviews on iTunes, sharing on the Instagrams or the Facebooks or wherever you do your shares. This program lives on because of y'all. So it doesn't go unnoticed. Thank you for listening. Thank you for reviews. Thanks for joining your life. Enjoy.